All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 2025, and this is the Cluster API office hours meeting. Cluster API is a sub-project of Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidelines, which can basically be summarized as please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly so, please be kind to each other. And if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At the beginning of our meetings, we like to spend a little time welcoming new attendees, and we invite them to say hello to the community. So if you're new to the meeting or new to the Cluster API community, please unmute yourself or raise your hand and say hi to everybody.
Hey, I guess I'm new, ish. I'm Thea. I work with Almika on the cluster infra team at Red Hat. Uh, I've been doing Kubernetes stuff for like 6, 7 years now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is the awkward time in school where you should come along with like a fun fact, and I don't have one. Um, oh, I'm on the spot now. Uh, I've been really enjoying some Lego that I was recently bought. There we go. There's a fun fact. Uh, yeah, that's me.
All right, welcome, Theo, and thank you for sharing that fun fact. Although we for future reference, we do not require that of new attendees. All right, is there anyone else who'd like to say hi? Going in three, two. Yeah, and as Stefan said, I think you're the first to actually start that tradition there, Theo. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else unmuting or raising their hand, so we will move on to the open proposal readouts. Okay, do we have anyone who would like to talk about either the in-place updates or node provisioning? Theo, I see you
Uh,
unmuting, please.
I'm here for node provisioning. If
Yeah,
in
yeah.
place isn't around, yeah, we continue to make progress. So Johanna just gave me an update. He's in an unfortunate time zone for this meeting, but we had a great call last week, Thursday. Collected a bit of an update, and yeah, implementation is progressing. So it's nice to see progress here.
Awesome. I'm very happy to hear it. And I'm sad that I have had a meeting move and it's making it difficult for me to get there because I'm also interested in that topic. But Tilo, thank you for the updates and I'm happy to hear that it's going well.
There's one more thing before I forget. The PR is still open, so if anyone could please have a look. It's approved, it's reviewed, and it's just the working group definition basically. It should be good to go. So if you folks like.
Oh, I think I put a slash approve, but I think we need someone who can actually slash approve there. I think I don't have the
Yeah,
sauce
I
for
think we assigned it to uh Espuringer because someone asked. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
and okay,
It shouldn't be too difficult for us to get this moved.
nice.
Thanks
Okay.
for bringing it up again though. So yeah, maybe I don't know, Stefan or Fabrizio or Christian, maybe if you could toss an approve there. That would be unless you see something you'd like to change. Yeah, Stefan, I see you unmuting.
Yeah, I have to take another look. I didn't have time for a while. I don't know if there's anything in there that requires like more than just one maintainer putting an approve on there, or not. But
It
I
seemed
have
like
to
we
read the
had good
latest version.
consensus. Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah, I wasn't looking at this PR for like 2 months or something because it was on PDO and had a huge backlog of PRs.
Okay,
So
cool.
I don't know the current state.
All right. Well, thank you, Tilo, for bringing it up again. And yeah, I guess Stefan, yeah, thanks for taking a look at it. Okay, and I don't know if we have Guillermo or someone else here to talk about the in-place updates. So I think we'll move on to our regular discussion topics. So first discussion topic from Chris about making Slack channels. So please, Chris, take it away.
So the CI signal team, part of the release team, hit an issue where the little DM chat where we're trying to coordinate things has too many people in it, and it didn't seem right to kick some of the people out that we could kick out. So I kind of looked into how do we get chat rooms added, and there's a whole process. And then I noticed that SIG release for Kubernetes in general has very similar teams to what we're doing, and they have separate rooms for them that have private groups that they update and maintain the membership and all that. So I wanted to ask, should we make some rooms? Because then we could manage them more easily. And then if we do we just make them public, or do we go with the group list to like limit who's in those channels or not? And I want to see what people thought and what process you'd like to do for debating it, or if someone has already said, no, we don't want to do that.
Matt, please.
I think that would be great because we've kind of flailed around a little trying to figure out what the best way for each of the team and the sub teams to communicate is. On the other hand, as I'm sure you're aware, there's some overhead in creating it. You have to look up people's Slack ID, put it in that separate file, and then maintain an alias that points to that, and then nudge, as always, nudge people to get the changes merged. So there's a fair amount of bookkeeping overhead, and I worry that would take a while. Like, just setting up, there's a Slack alias for everybody on the release team, and that took like 10 days to get merged just because I did something wrong and no one looked at it for a while. You know how it goes. Other than that, I think it would be great because then we'd have a clear path forward. And if we don't do this, maybe I should take this on as the release lead. We should amend it to say, here's the official way we want to communicate in the future, because not knowing was confusing for me. But thank you for looking into it. Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, just the first question. So like the things we have available is basically Slack channels and like this alias, right? There's nothing else, like some sub chat channels, whatever kind of thing. It's just those two things that we can use. Yeah, okay. Would something like an additional cluster API channel specifically for the release team be something that maybe helps because you have not like 5,000 people in that channel and only the release team plus other people that are interested in a topic are joining? Would it be like,
Yeah, that's one of the
but
options is just make a public channel that's called like Cappy Release Team, and then anyone can join and we don't have to maintain it at all.
yeah. I don't know if that automatically allows you like something like at all, or if that's just entirely blocked in the Kubernetes Slack. I don't know about that, but I think it could help to have a separate channel for release team where it's not that much other spam in there, and but still public, so open to everyone.
Okay, Fabrizio, you've got your hand up, please.
Yeah, I also prefer the idea of public channel. First, because I think that the community, we should really limit private channels. And if the team feel the need to do something private, I think that easiest and quick way is just create a group chat for the time of the release, and that works.
So the group chats are limited in size is the problem.
Sorry, what are
but
group
I
chats?
think
Are we talking
so.
about private
Let's
DM
try to
channels?
I think that in the community, most of the communication should happen in public. So if we have a public channel, most of the communication goes there. If there is something which is, let me say, delicate that we don't want to make public for some reason, I think that this is a very scoped discussion. We can have it in DMs or group chat, and then we go back to public for most of the rest. So it is also, it is not only it is also why we need private. What we have, is there something that we should, that is so critical to keep it around? Usually we chat about, we are doing this, please approve this PR, etc., or ask questions. So I think that is fair to keep it public. It is even better because people can learn, folks can help. So I don't know. I think that really we should avoid the private channel if not strictly necessary, and I don't see necessity here.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Stefan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just adding to the last point, I think it could be really useful that basically previous release team members, maintainers, whatever, can just basically listen in and help here and there whenever necessary. And that's just a lot easier if it's not just private group DM channels that are changing between release teams. Also to basically search on like discussions that happened in the last release team or a year ago or whatever. That only really works if you have like a public channel where you can just search versus, oh, maybe we still know someone who was like in a previous private group channel from a year ago. I mean, that just doesn't happen, right?
Well, thank you, Stefan. Matt, please.
Well, I don't want to speak for Chris, so please correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I don't think the concern is that we have anything we want to discuss in private. It was just about how can we keep this focused so we're not wasting people's time, and so they're plugged into the chat and they know that this is germane, that what we're talking about is relevant to them. So, but I totally agree. Everything should be public. Ideally, it's just about, is this well targeted so that people are going to pay attention? And so I guess my thinking with the group chat was, then you're supposed to be paying attention to it because it's sort of dedicated to that purpose. But I think it's a better argument that we should just be doing it in the CAPI channel for now, at least, and creating long-lived threads on certain topics. Go ahead, Chris.
So I would say if we're going to do public channels, because people never stick to threads, I think then we would have the release team channel, the CI sub team channel, the comms team sub channel, and is there another sub team? So I'd be adding one for each, and I want to make sure people will be okay with that or get their feedback if they hate that for some reason.
Stefan, please.
I mean, it just sounds like a huge number of channels. Do you have that much communication that you need one dedicated channel for each sub-team of 3 or 4 people? I mean, usually the rules in Kubernetes like is, I think, something like, either you're a SIG or you're a project, or you are like, I know you're a project with over 500 stars or whatever to get a channel. I don't know if it's a bit much if basically the release team already takes like just 4 channels for themselves. It just sounds like a lot of, do we need that much?
Matt, please.
I think Tilo was first, but all I was going to say is, would it be good enough to create a one channel and then we could just have different threads in a release channel? Or could we get away with just doing it on Cluster API? Sorry, Tilo. Go ahead.
From our own experience in Flatcar, which has sizable releases, we benefit a lot from having like a general chatter channel, mostly on metrics, and a distinctly separate releases channel that is also public. The benefit here is the releases channel has a starkly different traffic pattern than the general channel. In that for days or weeks, there isn't a single chat. And then in kind of like a spike, in a release wall rush, there's a constant flurry of messages because, we're trying to get a release done, getting all the tests run, getting all the marketplaces satisfied and all of that. That would be outright overwhelming for our general chat channel, for people that are there for this time being. Like, we would scare them away because there's just too much going on, and you would even miss individual messages. So in the general chatter channel that we have, the messages are way more constant. You have between, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 messages a day, a bit of chit chat with our users, maintainers ping each other there. But we really benefit from the distinction just because of the difference of the traffic patterns. My largest concern when putting everything in the same channel would be that this would make a weird impression on just users passing by and trying to read themselves in.
Something stuck up, would they be able to handle that kind of a graph or a tree?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Tilo. That's great. It's great experience and wisdom to pass on. Stefan, please.
Stupid question about how much like communication, chat, threads, messages per day are we talking here? I mean, what I see in the copy channel is like not much, like maybe 2 threads per week. I don't know if that's, I don't know what's going on in private DM channels. Like, I really can't tell you, but everything that I was able to see in a public channel was not very high bandwidth. And we're also really talking about small teams that are not like, working like 40 hours per week on the release team. And my impression, maybe I'm totally wrong. So I feel like having like 4 or 5 channels would be probably just like over engineering like the whole thing. But maybe that's just my take.
I'll just, as the host, I will take the opportunity to, I guess, lend my opinion. I think starting with like just a release channel could be really helpful. Like, just our general QA channel and then one release channel. I'm not sure that I'm understanding the full uh, distinction around why we might want more channels, but I do get what Chris is saying about like keeping it organized in threads and whatnot. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Did anybody else have comments or thoughts about this? I think we have a good discussion here now. I'm not sure what the best next steps might be. Like, should Chris open an issue about this and maybe like we can discuss it there and come to a consensus in an asynchronous manner? Would that, I don't know, Chris, does that make sense to you?
That's all I want to know. It's like I'm totally fine dropping it, just doing one channel. Am I doing it or is Matt doing it? I'm totally fine going on with doing it, but I wanted to check in case he wanted it for some reason.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I guess Chris and Matt, do you guys want to take an action item here, or Fabrizio? I see you raising your hand, please. Fabrizio, go ahead.
You have to unmute yourself, Fabrizio.
Sorry. I was just saying, my suggestion, let's start with a single channel and let's see if it gets too noisy, we can add more later.
What do you think, Chris? Should we do that?
Yeah. Single channel, and we'll start. And yeah, I can work on
Yeah.
getting the PR in or something.
The only question here is who wants the action item, Chris or Matt? You want to take it,
Flip a
Chris?
coin. I'm happy to help. It's
All right, I'll put Chris slash
probably in my
Yep.
domain.
you guys.
Yeah,
can-
it's fine.
We'll work on it together.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing this up, Chris. I think it's a good topic. All right. If there's nothing more on that one, we will move on to the next topic here, which is Fabrizio about CRS promoted to GA. So please, Fabrizio.
Thank you. So we just merged the PR, and kudos to Mohammed that drive the work, which basically promotes cluster resource set to GA. So this is basically an heads up for everyone about this, but also a question for the community. This is the first time, at least since I remember, that we are promoting something behind the feature gate to GA. And so I was wondering, now what do we do with the feature flag? Should we deprecate and remove it in the next cycle? It seems correct to me. I guess it is the same that they do in Kubernetes as well, but I just want to bring this up.
Yeah, I think starting the deprecation now that we've fully removed the feature makes sense to me. I don't know if anybody else had experience from the wider Kube community, although I see Stefan, you've got your hand up, please.
Yeah, I think I would just keep it for one release, which is the current one, I guess, and then drop it one later.
So we should basically mark it deprecated now and remove the next one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's kind of a thing that, like technically speaking, that we can deprecate a feature gate, but conceptually, yeah, basically, we tell people that. I don't know if like with the feature gate library that we use from KK, if you can literally deprecate a feature gate, but I think conceptually, yeah, that's what I would do. So hey, now it's
not
Jay. We have it here. It's gone one later.
Okay.
Would not deprecating the TrueGate affect anything like end-to-end tests or anything like this, or is it just a matter of organization?
Deprecation, I guess it won't affect anything. It's just a
Right.
warning.
If we forgot to deprecate, would it affect anything? I'm just wondering whether it's like a householding item.
So a feature gate is basically a constant in a package. By deprecating a constant in a package, I don't see issue.
I was thinking about some end-to-end tests, but that maybe I don't for sure.
Yeah, but we are just deprecating. We are not removing yet.
I see. Okay. So there has to be a proper order. Okay.
It will act as heads up for everyone, informing that it will be removed soon.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I take an action item about to move on about deprecation and open an issue for removal. I just want to bring this up, Stefan, please.
Yeah, just want to summarize. So I think what I would do is basically I think deprecating constant is a good thing. Then what was the other thing I was thinking about? Yeah, in the release notes of 1.10, basically very clearly say, hey, we promoted this feature gate to GA with 1.11, that's gone. And in like real life, the impact will be we ourselves in our repository 1.10, we only have that deprecation on there. We in 1.11, we're just going to drop like wherever we use this feature gate. And that's it, end of story. For users of Cluster API, it just means if they were using -- feature gate, cluster resource set, whatever, they cannot do this anymore with 1.11. And I think that's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we have also to look into the flag if there is a way to bring it up that the flag is deprecated.
I think one thing we can always do, is basically, so I think the usual deprecation on like a Cobra level is maybe two things. One thing, it shows somewhere up in the help text if you do like -- help. And I think the other thing could be that basically we log a warning. I think that's very, I don't know about feature gates, but just in general, there are log messages in Kubernetes components which basically tell you, hey, you're using this thing which is deprecated, which is maybe we can figure out via the feature gate library, is someone explicitly setting this flag to whatever value and then just log a warning on startup of our controllers or of the core copy controller in that case.
Yeah, I will look into it. Thank you for bringing this up. Okay, the next part of the story is that we graduated cluster resource set, but cluster resource set API types and controller are still under the experimental folder. And so, yeah, there is some work to be done to move them around. I will probably open an issue or comment on the existing issue about what kind of work is required, and then hopefully someone will step up to help.
Awesome. Thank you for specking that out for us too, Fabrizio. I think that really helps to have like issues like that. And yeah, hopefully it'll bring some more contributors who want to find stuff to do. Did anybody else have questions about the code cleanup part of that? And just for reference, I put a link to the deprecation policy there. There is a section on flags. I know we're talking about feature gates as well, but Pavel, you had some questions about deprecation as well. So that might be good to look at those as like the general policy for what Kubernetes expects. Okay. Yeah. If there's no other questions, we'll go on to Joel's topic about API linters. So please, Joel, take it away.
Oh, so for those of you who don't know me well, I am one of the OpenShift API reviewers. I also work on CAPI, which is why I'm here. but I also get involved in SIG API machinery stuff. Salt Lake City for KubeCon, I end up talking with a bunch of the other folks, people from Apple, Google, etc., Microsoft, about the fact that it'd be really nice if we could turn the Cube API conventions into a linter. And because that then makes my job at Red Hat easier, I started working on that. Now, if you take a look through the open issues on Cluster API, there are several links. I mean, I've found 4 of them there, which talk about having linters for API conventions, things like the server-side apply markers, things like the Go comments starting with the serialized version of the name. Now, not everything that's requested in these links is actually implemented yet, but I have been started working on that linter that I mentioned. I've also got approval from the SIG API machinery folks. They want me to write up a KEP, but they want to adopt this as a Cube SIG project, Cube sub project in the Cube SIGs org. So yeah, I wondered if, given the open issues and something this actually came up today with Stefan and I, whether Cappy would like to be a early adopter of this linter. So I spent an hour or so this morning and I hacked together a PR. So there is a sort of PR open that shows what it would look like to add this linter to the API, to Cluster API, and kind of show what kind of errors are coming out. There are 10 or so rules in there at the moment that have been implemented from the API conventions, and there's another 17 or so on my list to do. So yeah, there's plenty to discuss here, but I thought this could be a useful thing to help us as we go towards V1 Beta 2.
I think this is an awesome contribution, and I think the linter is a great idea. Does anybody else have comments or questions about this topic?
I have a question. I mean, so linter is supposed to lint the code, right? I mean, and this would be like used for the GitHub Actions jobs, or uh, what's the trying to get a grasp on this linter specifically? I mean, API linter, like API code or
Yeah,
Cube API
so
code? Oh, okay.
So it's actually built as a plugin for Golang CI lint. So you build a custom version of Golang CI lint, and then I've configured it in this PR to look at the folders or any folder that is API/v1 beta 1. Obviously, we could do that to just any folder that has API in or whatever we would decide. But yeah, it basically looks at the Go code that's there and looks at things like the markers on it. So one thing that I think we've discussed here in the past is optional and required markers, for example. Like if you don't have every field with one or the other, then there's ambiguity and you might accidentally break that in the future. So one of the linter rules is every field should have an optional or required marker. And so it will look at the kind of comments on that field and determine whether it has one or not, and then report back in the same way that any other linter would. And yes, I
Cool.
have got it integrated with the GitHub Actions in that demonstration.
Yeah.
Fabrizio, you're next.
Yeah, I also commented on the issue, and I don't have. First of all, thank you for doing this. I think that is something that we all can benefit from. Just a general comment. I think we should start using from V1 Beta 2 for the V1 Beta 2 work, and yeah, let me say I have to look into it. I'm just let me say I just want to make sure that we don't have the same impact that happened when we enable some linter and we just had up tons of stuff to fix. But this when we start V1 Beta 2 go work, I think that will be a good moment to do this spike of cleanup. So I'm definitely +1 to coordinate this with the V1 Beta 2 work.
Yeah, so actually kind of on that, with the configuration, you could actually just specify anything that's A1 API v1 beta 2. So we can get this merged before any of those actually go up, and it would only then affect them. There's also, and this is what I've done for the OpenShift APIs, the option to do new from revision. So we could add that in specifically for this linter so that it only lints changes since the main branch. Now, that would then lead to potential inconsistencies in the current APIs because some of it would have been linted and some of it wouldn't. But that is an option we have if we wanted to start getting used to this and trying it out now. The other thing that I think is important to mention, Mike, if you could go to the PR itself, and then if you look at the files changed, there is a file with the configuration. So it's that second file, Golang CI Cal. So what I did here, just because I think it's probably worth discussion about which of these conventions and which of the rules we'd want to adopt. I've added it so that we disable all of the linters automatically, and then each one is individually enabled. And I did that specifically so we could discuss which each one of them would do, probably best on the PR, and make sure that we're happy with each of these. Most of them shouldn't be too controversial, but there might be things in there that we decide for Cappy, this isn't something we want to follow. So yeah, at some point, reviewing that list there, and I've kind of put a comment on each one to say what it does, would be useful just to give an understanding of what this linter is actually going to check for.
Stefan, please.
Yep. So generally agree with what Fabrice is saying. Really like the idea and the linter, and definitely let's make it happen. Just yeah, and also let's just go over like the different linters and discuss what they're enforcing and what's their opinion on this. I assume most of it is just clear common sense. I mean, we don't really like to diverge from general conventions, so I assume there is a lot of alignment there. Regarding beta 2 or beta 1, I wonder, maybe it's like a per finding thing. So what I'm thinking is the following. So I think there are a bunch of findings that are probably non-breaking. Let's say something like, hey, we have to add like the right merge keys, or let's just say something which is non-breaking, whatever that might be. I think those we can probably already do on beta 1. And then we don't have like additional churn or delta when we do beta 2. We already got it out of the way, essentially. Then there might be another category which is breaking, which is something like, hey, we know, according to the linter and also in general, we should add some sort of min length or so that cell works better. Technically speaking, I think that's a breaking change. It doesn't matter if we put it on beta 1 or beta 2. Because even between beta 1 and beta 2, we can just technically add new limitations that make previous objects invalid. Even if you have conversion, that doesn't really change anything there. So I would assume like a huge majority of the findings that we can address them either in beta 1 or in beta 2, and it might be good to just front load them already to beta 1, that we don't have like additional bunch of work to do when we have beta 2. What I don't know is there also might be some gray area in between where it's like, yeah, technically that's a breaking change, but we know, I don't know, this validation is fine because if you use something else, that was never going to work anyway. Or maybe there's some other gray area where it's okay to edit with beta 2, but maybe not so okay with beta 1. But I think we probably only learn this if we go like from finding to finding and make like an assessment, like what is the kind of thing we can do on existing fields and what is something that we can only enforce in new fields. So probably we need a combination of definitely enforce like everything that makes sense on everything new that we add. And then whatever we want to potentially add to existing fields, we just have to make case-by-case decisions what is like non-breaking enough for us. I just assume like there are technically rules what is a breaking change and whatnot, but it's always a bit of a gray area where you can still do a breaking change if just circumstances say, yeah, it should be fine. Why not?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that's just inspired me as well to mention that some of the linter rules there do have fixes implemented, and that's all on the README on the repo for it. So, for example, we talked before about adding the serialized name of the thing as the start of the comment. That one can auto fix if it's the Go version of it with like the capitalized, it will auto fix that to the serialized version. So that's something that we can easily do. On the old types, adding the optional and required is obviously not breaking because they get generated into the schema anyway, so we can identify that one. The only thing, yeah, you're right. Things like the max length, if we start adding something like that, which is good practice, obviously, for cell validations and stuff, and make sure the cost isn't too high, that could be considered breaking, but we do now have the benefit of ratcheting validation, which I think is cube 131 or 132. Can't remember. But once we get to the point where that's our minimum supported version for the API server, then help us reduce on those kinds of changes as well.
You got your hand up. Go ahead, Pablo.
Um, Regarding this and the feature gate PR, I'm thinking like maybe this could be related and to the rules of deprecating the APIs or kind versions could be somehow aligned with feature gates that are also being deprecated. Not sure if that will be defined in the I'm not sure if it was that CRD or not of the Vimper project, but maybe there is a way to somehow uh, integrate this feature gate deprecation flags with the versions and their and linting rules for yeah for those, so they are so some of them are like automatic. If you get my point.
I'm not sure I'm following there, Pablo. You're saying like, could we have the linter be able to pick up on when we've deprecated something so that it could know about it?
We discussed, Stefan just said, just discuss the versions, right? The non-breaking changes versus breaking changes. So we have all kind of updates, right?
Oh, I see.
Those changes are quite often related to this feature flags, which we have. And I was wondering that maybe we could add some kind of a check on pull requests, such as, okay, there is this cluster resource set feature gate that yeah, maybe there is a way of making this deprecation uh, like through the linter that we just raised up and mentioned here, right?
I can answer if that helps.
Yeah, Stefan, please.
Okay, so I think we're talking about two different topics. So historically, we used feature gates, to enable disable certain stuff, and some of them were basically mapping to certain CRDs. But our feature gates are not really mapping to any API version of any CRD. So while we have like a feature gate for CRS to basically enable disable CRS in general and enable disable the cluster resource controller, it has no coupling at all to the cluster resource set CRD and API version v1 beta 1 or the upcoming beta 2. So I think doesn't really make sense to couple feature gates to CRDs in any way. Also going forward, I think the general idea that we now try to follow is that basically we are using feature gates mostly to toggle feature, which is pretty independent of the CRDs or different API versions of CRDs. And then, so let's say we introduce a new feature, let's say machine drain rules, right? Or some other thing. Basically, the idea is to not introduce new feature gates for new CRDs. We just say, hey, here's a new CRD. If it's not ready yet, we call it B1 Alpha 1 or B1 Alpha 2 and eventually Beta 1. But we're not going to additionally add a feature gate to enable and disable CRDs. So going forward, feature gates and CRDs are just totally entirely different things. Like in Kubernetes, they have all sorts of API resources and API versions, all of that. But I think there's like very rarely any sort of correlation between a feature gate and API server and any sort of CRD. And the linter that Troy is talking about is purely talking about CRDs, so it has nothing to do with feature gates, in my opinion.
Good discussion. Does that make sense, Pablo? Do you get what Stefan's talking about?
Yeah, I think it does. If those are separate, then then maybe there's no connection like that we could map feature gates deprecation with. Lending for minor or major updates of the kinds there, then it's okay. I mean, makes sense as decoupled. So yeah, it clarifies. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, no worries. Are there any other questions or comments about this one? Good discussion there. Good questions too. All right, so I guess the action, was there an action item coming out of this? I mean, Joel, you've already got the PRs up and everything, so we'll just see how it goes, and if folks
Yeah,
agree, we could put it in.
I
Yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, like, if anyone has any questions, find me on Slack. I'm fairly easy to find, or one of these calls maybe. And yeah, if folks who are interested could take a look at the PR. I mean, primarily the config that mentions the different rules that might be implemented, and then obviously there's more details on that in the actual repo for the linter. So yeah, just maybe let's get the discussion started on how we feel about the different rules, if possible.
Awesome, and thank you for the contribution too. That's really cool. I think that the wider effect is going to be nice as well. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands or anything, so we'll go on to the next topic. Fabrizio, you've got an update on the PR backlog.
Yep, we are down to 35, now 36 because a PR just came in. But yeah, we have a few other PR almost ready to merge. And I think this is good because this week we had also a bunch of PR due to the release. So yep, I will also give kudos to Nolan, Daniel, Mike, everyone stepping up and helping in this spike on backlog. Really appreciated, and thank you everyone. And I think this is the proof that everyone can really help and maintainers to keep the backlog in a sane state.
Well, thank you, Fabrizio, as well. I know I'm not sure that my reviews did a lot, but you know, like a tug of war, every extra hand helps out, right?
Exactly. Every extra and every little contribution helps us to move in the right direction. So
Well, it looks like Nolan had a question here on this as well about what is the process for getting reviewer status in Cluster API?
Yeah, and excuse me. I know we have a contributing guide there as well, but just in light of like the last several maybe months of these meetings, Fabrizio, you've been highlighting that the maintainers are kind of underwater. So I think it would be good to restate some of the requirements for getting a reviewer status, if folks are interested in contributing more, like giving them a clear goal.
yeah, I think that's a good call. So what we did in the past to help people to ramp up. So maybe Mike, if you can look at the book in the contributor guide, there is a down below contributor guide. It is one of the last. Yeah, contributing, and at the end there is contributor letter. The very last paragraph. So basically, what we did in the past in order to help folks to ramp up in reviewer and maintainers is that we divided the project in parts, and these allow folks, for instance, if you are confident in cluster cattle, I make an example. You can basically start becoming a reviewer only for cluster cattle PR, for PR touching cluster cattle. So this is a way for everyone to start taking responsibility without basically having to deal with the noise that apply to the entire project. And so let me say the requirement to become a reviewer is knowledge of the code base, is being present in the project since sometimes, so being a continuous contributor. Let me say those requirements not different from Kubernetes. What we have is like Kubernetes, we have some owners file in different area of the project. So and and we were pretty informal. So in the past, whenever someone wanted and have bandwidth and feel confident to become a reviewer, just open a PR in these owner files, and we are usually happy to accept this. And as Stefan is bringing up, it's also important that let me say, to do a reviewer, you don't need a reviewer status. You just go on PR and comment. What will bring you if you become a reviewer is that you are assigned as a reviewer to a PR when it comes in. So basically, the game become the following. When there are reviewer in an area, what usually happens is that let's keep a cluster cutter example, is that there is a new PR. If Nolan is a cluster cutter reviewer, he gets assigned. And usually what maintainers do is that they give some time to the reviewer of that area to make a first pass, and then the reviewer jump in and do the final, the maintainer jump in and do the final mile. This help basically to spread the load among different folks in the community. So if you want to start, feel free to start. Just pick up in the area. If you want to become a reviewer, this will sort of direct to you some PRs, but it does not prevent you to look at others. I mean, cluster API is still it is noisy, but it is the size of a project where a person can subscribe to all the notification and just if you see a PR, look at it. If the PR is something that it does not care about, it just silence the notification that PR. So this what you do is not something that will kill you your notification stuff. Is manageable. So I always suggest if you are a reviewer, make sure to look at everything coming in your area. And this is how you grow, not wait for PR assigned to you. I hope this helped. I don't know if Stephanie, if you want to add something on top.
You probably already mentioned everything, but I think the key thing is if you're interested in becoming a reviewer, just start reviewing. That's really the main thing to get like, I mean, depending on how much you already know about the code base, but that really gets you started and to learn about our code and yeah, all of that. I think, yeah, we don't really have high bars. I mean, high bars in the sense of like we expect someone to do reviews for half a year or something before we make them an official reviewer. If someone is already in a Kubernetes org, it's also pretty much equivalent from a permission perspective. Let's call it like that. So as soon as you're in the org, you can add a /LGDM and it will give like this LGDM label, basically. The only difference when you actually become like official reviewer is that I would say it's like a bit of an appreciation of your effort up until that point. And yeah, it's a sign that you made like the first step on the ladder to essentially become maintainer. But the official reviewer's status is, I think, nothing that should really like stand in the way. I think it's just that in the past, basically, we saw that most contributions are opening PRs, which is also fine and great. It just doesn't really reduce the effort on the maintainer side. It rather increases it, of course. So that's why we're looking definitely for a lot of review contributions as well, and not only code contributions. Yeah, so nothing really useful to add. Of course, if you need like any help or whatever, just ping us in Slack. And we'll try to help.
I think it's good to hear though. These messages are like, this is good to hear every once in a while and kind of bring up for reinforcement. And you know, for folks who are here or folks listening later, you know, for me, I think there's like three kind of big takeaways here. You know, the first one is like, yes, you can start doing reviews now. You don't need to be added to the official reviewer role to do them, and they are certainly appreciated. The second thing to know is that if you are added to the official reviewer role, you will actually get more automated emails from GitHub because you will start to be randomly assigned. You'll be part of the pool of reviewers who can be assigned to open pull requests that get open. And then the third thing to remember, the third thing to know, and I think Fabrizio really hit this one well, is that even though you'll have reviews that are assigned to you, or maybe ones that you're interested in, looking at their other reviews in the areas that you're curious about will help you to understand the code base better. So hopefully people kind of take that away from this and come take a look at some code and kind of review it. Did anybody have other questions or comments about this topic? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands going up or anything, so we'll move on to our final topic on the regular discussion, which I always love, a Fabrizio kudos topic. So please, Fabrizio, lay it on us.
Yeah, this is another one. So yesterday, the new release team cut the first patch release of this cycle. Kudos to everyone. Thank you to Stefan and Sunat, who helped the new team to step up. Amazing work, folks. It is really awesome to see how we can keep this going across releases. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well said, Fabrizio. Well said. All right. So I guess we have no provider updates today, and the only other piece of business we have is that there will be a Carpenter feature group meeting in about 5 minutes from now, in the same channel for anyone who's interested in that. And yeah, we got a couple topics on the agenda for today. So if nobody has any other ad hoc topics or anything, I guess we will call it a meeting for today. All right, going once, going twice. All right, have a good day, everybody.